Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, welcome to another comic episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is in the sewers with me tonight?
It's Prince Peter Bingham-Pankratz.
And welcome back.
Thank you. You can put an X in front of all those names. It's still pronounced the same, but it just,
I forgot about that.
They all start with the letter X.
Which does nothing, because Izor is I-Z-O-R. Why is there even an X?
I think just as an aside, and I know you're going to pronounce it differently, but in the book it says it's pronounced Shizor. Like the X is pronounced like SH.
Oh, okay. Oh, and before I get too far,
Yes.
Peter, where can people find you at?
You can find me online on Twitter at PeterBP, or if you'd like to look for my book, I've written a novel called The Fifth Civilization. That's the first in a trilogy of sci-fi books. So if you like Star Wars, check out The Fifth Civilization and be entertained.
All right. And as always, you're here to talk with me about Star Wars something.
Star Wars, in this case, The Shells of the Empire, the comic book.
We talked about the game, God, years ago. I feel like years ago at this point.
It must, yeah. At least 2 years ago, yeah. The old classic N64 game.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking it up right now because I didn't look it up before this started.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so this was a book, a comic, and a game. I have read the book before that you actually got me. Episode 48, we covered the game. So, long-ass time ago.
Right.
And I haven't read the book in years. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately. I let a guy borrow it that I worked with. He's like, and then I quit. Never got it back from him.
Well, I just like to imagine he's enjoying it.
He did.
Read it many times.
He read it at least once. I remember talking to him. He's like, yeah, this is really good. I'm like, I'm glad you like it. Then I ended up quitting in like 2 days, and so I forgot to get my book back. But
Well, yeah, the backstory of Shells of the Empire was a multimedia project by Lucasfilm to kind of see what would happen if they released a movie without releasing a movie to get ready for the prequel trilogy. So there was a video game, there was a novel, there was a comic book, there were trading cards, there were action figures. There's everything except a movie. Yeah, if you were alive in the 90s and like Star Wars, you remember, a Dash Rendar, action figure or...
And this was all 96.
1996, yeah. They all came out at the same time, yeah. There's even a CD soundtrack to a book, which is very rare these days.
Play this music while you read.
Right. Exactly.
Is it a firefight? Play this song for 30 minutes.
And they used I think they used the music for the video game for a lot of it too. But that's kind of how it was. So, but Mike was talking to me before the show, but he was asking what part dealt with what. So the comic book, as you can recall, it has Boba Fett's face highly prominent, was meant to focus on the bounty hunters.
It sort of does.
Right. It does more than the book. Boba Fett is barely in the book. I don't even think you ever see him. You just see Slave One, the ship.
But that's what's also weird is that, like,
yeah.
Does it take place? Because I know the game is pretty much all Dash Rendar.
Right.
I don't remember the book, if it's mostly Dash Rendar or if it's other characters.
No. The book is mostly Luke, Leia, Lando, and Han.
Okay. And
kind of Darth Vader and Prince Shizor in there as well. So there's a lot of that. But there is Dash Rendar, but he's very little. He's in a couple chapters, basically. And
he's really just a video game character, right, then?
Yes. He was meant to be the star of the video game because he would be a Han Solo character when they didn't have Han Solo. So he'd be a kind of a cocky smuggler and prance around shooting things. And that was the point of the video game. And the video game has, IG-88 has Boba Fett, has all this kind of more bounty hunter stuff. And the comic focuses on... It does have a bit of the storyline of the book, but it has much more of the bounty hunter stuff that's not present in the book or the video game.
Okay. I was also upset because I don't normally do this, but because
Right.
I've been reading people listen to the show, I bought a bunch of the Sandman comics. So I'm like, I've been enjoying reading graphic novels. I'm like, all right, I'm going to look online and I'm going to buy it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't exist on Amazon. It's out of print.
Yeah, you mean Shadows?
Yeah, Shells of the Empire. I was looking for the trade. I was going to buy
Yeah.
the trade comic to read it and own it.
I was able to get it I used to work at a bookstore, so I was able to get it there for cheap. But now it is out of print, and I'm sure you can get a used copy for, a somewhat pricey chunk of change. But yeah.
I read it other ways, but I was just sad because I'm like, all right, I want to buy it. And I couldn't.
Yeah, I know. You would have to shell out a little bit of money to actually have a physical copy of it. So
Yeah, and
That's
I
how
wasn't willing to do that.
a lot of the things we've read, I think the Dark Empire and Heir to the Empire, the Thrawn trilogy, if it's a physical format, it is kind of pricey. For whatever reason, they've just jumped up in price.
Oh, it's not that bad. The only one that I find on eBay right now for the trade is Star Wars Shadow of the Empire trade paperback, signed limited 41 out of 1,000, only $225 or best offer. Plus shipping, plus $15 for shipping because you gotta.
Oh, I'm not paying that. If I'm paying
You think you get free shipping at that point? Like,
Yeah.
you're already sending this one. Here's free shipping. Here you go.
It doesn't cost $15 to ship a trade. That's
No, it doesn't.
That's ridiculous.
Not unless you go into FedEx. So,
Listeners, find a copy. Don't spend your hard-earned cash unless you really want it into your collection.
yeah, there's also like no listings for the comic on eBay that I'm. Okay, somebody is selling it for $25.
Okay.
That's a decent price.
Yeah.
More than I would want to pay, but that's a fair price.
Yeah. It is, it's widely, Shadows of the Empire is widely considered one of the classic EU books. It may be, along with the Thrawn trilogy, kind of critically, fans believe it may be the best EU book of the old EU canon.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, it's a good story.
It's a good story. It's designed cinematically. It was made with the intention of it introduces a villain. It has a clear plot. It has adventures. They go to planets and planets. It's kind of meant to be like a movie. And that's probably what its appeal is, in that it's very much is like a fourth Star Wars movie. It could easily fit in among the trilogy, and nobody would be surprised to be part of it.
No, I mean, because this also takes place between near the. Well, the book takes place, I think, or the comic book that we read takes place after Empire Strikes Back and then before Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, the book, I was actually reading kind of the book to kind of compare it while I was reading the comic.
Okay.
And the book opens with Darth Vader's call the Emperor from Empire, and kind of Prince Xizor is standing right near the Empire, but he's, outside the hologram or whatever. And he's kind of listening in, and he sees when the Emperor tells Vader, we should turn Luke Skywalker, he make a powerful ally, things like that. And then it goes to the Han Solo being frozen carbonite. So the book opens in Empire Strikes Back and kind of then jumps to right afterwards. Like kind of like, a day after the Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, I like that. And the comic starts off like the first scene you see in the comic is Luke is still on the medical freighter, and they talk about how he just got his hand healed. He's like, you can't, and he wants to go fly in a ship because they're flying and going to run into Imperials or something, and he's got to go, he wants to join them.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like it that, it looks like it's probably a few days or a week later.
Yeah, it's very closely afterward.
Yeah. I'm assuming they weren't traveling that fast during that time.
Yeah. I think the consensus is, between Empire and Return of the Jedi, I believe it's like several months to a year at least.
It's not super long.
Yeah, it's not longer than that. I think the book, the book makes it seem much quicker than that, but I don't know. They don't ever say like, oh, it's been a week. It's been a year since the Battle of Hoth or anything like that.
Yeah, which would be nice. I mean, everything else, Star Wars, does a good job making sure when the Battle of Yavin is.
Right. It makes sense because you get the feeling that, the rebels would need some time to get their fleet together. They wouldn't be able to go and attack the Death Star, the next week. It would.
No, I mean, they get fucked up in Empire Strikes Back.
Right. Exactly.
Terribly.
Right. So
it makes me sad that this doesn't exist. Like, this is no longer canon. None of this is anymore. And it makes me sad that this isn't like, this would have been a good movie. You could still make this movie. You'd have to recast everybody, but you could still make this movie.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking, they could do like an animated thing. Would be the most likely scenario.
Oh, okay.
Some sort of computer animated or something.
Disney Plus
retelling
exclusive.
of this. And maybe you wouldn't get Mark Hamill, but they can do AI voices now. So, you could just get a deep fake of Luke and Darth Vader and Leia and all these people. As poor taste it would be, they could do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one issue with Star Wars is how much it is those people, and that golden age is gone. So
right. But, it's a good story. They have canonized some parts of it. I know Prince Xizor exists in the new canon.
Oh, he does?
Black Sun. They've kind of mentioned him.
Okay.
I forget what. You can go to Wikipedia and see. But in some new canon, they mention, don't let Prince Caesar hear about this because then you'll have Black Sun all over you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me happy. I like when stuff that was created, like stuff like this that's no longer canon, is taken by somebody and put into the general thing again. And like even something small like that, like making a reference, making it canon now.
Yeah, I think also that is a good thing they've done it with Admiral Thrawn. And I think it was...
Well, he's in Rebels 100%.
Right. I mean, that was done because, like the fans really love him, so we can't get rid of him. And I think they have, as far as I know, the new canon has not done anything that takes place between Empire and Return of the Jedi. I'm not saying...
I want to say the comics are, because there is a Star Wars comic series, which is, I read part of it back when it came out. It was pretty good. That takes place from New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, and it ends there. And then the next volume was going to take place in Empire Return of the Jedi, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So I think there might be, but I don't follow comics really much. I just read old comics in the 90s, apparently. So
well, that's because you had me on, and that's when I was reading all the stuff, and that's when I stopped.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, you thanks to you, I got to cross this off my list because this has also been, we've been talking about recording this episode for over a year, I'm pretty sure at this point. So
probably several years, yeah.
Yeah. This has been one of the books that I always wanted to read. And I mean, I'm a big fan of the game, I think I am. At least I have fond memories of the game. Whether or not I liked it when we played it, I can't remember. But this comic was nice to bring me back to that. I mean, there isn't a whole lot in the first issue that needs to be mentioned. I mean, there is that scene that you were talking about where Vader's talking to the Emperor, and you have Prince Zizor is with him. You have Boba Fett, which this is what something that's nice is I'm a big fan of Boba Fett, as I know I've said many times on this show. And Boba Fett is a joke character, in my opinion, when you look at the original movies. And you look at that terrible Book of Boba Fett show, this, at least I got to see Boba Fett be a badass. Whether it be a comic that's no longer canon, at least he was a badass somewhere. In
all the comics, he is a badass. In Dark Empire, if you remember, he was, even though he gets defeated still, he's definitely competent at his job. And
I like that.
Of him.
Like in this, you have him fighting IG-88, and I like the idea that everybody's hunting him because they all want Solo because they want to turn him in for the bounty.
Right.
And
it's a great bit, yeah.
It's cool. I mean, this is where IG-88 dies, even though it doesn't really match up with the game, because I thought you kill IG-88, but he's obviously dead in here because he's in the ship when he blows up.
Yeah, it's...
So I don't think he survived.
The better man wins, droid. Is that what Luke's got? That's what Boba Fett says. Yeah, but all the bounty hunters from, Empire Strikes Back, except for Dengar. He's not in this.
Yeah, I thought that was odd that Dengar wasn't in this.
He's in Dark Empire kind of briefly, so they might have wanted to, maybe he was on friendlier terms with Boba Fett. I don't know the history of Dengar. There might be people out there who know more about him.
There are. And we make fun of him all the time, but hey, there's Funko Pops of him. Right. So he must have enough fan base that people made a Funko Pop of him. It's like a nice one.
I'm sure if I read the wiki article on him, they would have a long description of maybe why he wasn't included, but he's not included. But you get Zuckuss, you get Forlon, you get Bosk, IG-88, you get all those people who are.
You get all these cool characters were introduced in one scene. My favorite scene of that movie, by the way, and they're all just taken off the board at the end of this comic.
Right. It's a fun bit, it's I don't know what to compare it to. It's kind of like a Western, like everybody's trying to get his bounty.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Boba Fett is on the cover of the trade. He's the most prominent figure. He's above Luke. He's above Darth Vader. He's above Han Solo. He's meant to be like Boba Fett. He's the star of this comic.
He is also on tons of the issue.
Yeah, there's a gallery in back, and I've seen the covers.
He's on the front cover. The second cover he's the only thing on the cover with a bunch of other bounty hunters. There's no Luke. It's just like, and I thought that when I was reading this, I'm like, that is odd that here I'm reading Shadows of the Empire books, and it's like him, and I'm like, why is he on the front of all this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me. I wasn't complaining. I enjoyed it, but I was just confused. I'm like, why is... Because Boba Fett, like you said, he wasn't big in the game. He wasn't big in the book. I'm like, why is he big in the comic book? But
no.
I'm okay. I'm not complaining. But
again, I think it was a thing of, we better highlight this character that people like, and let's save him for the comic book where maybe it's more visual, maybe.
Sell his toys.
I don't know what the reason was, but...
Sell toys?
Well, yes. Isn't that the goal of Star Wars?
I mean, that's a goal.
Toys as possible.
It's really hurt now that I've gotten older and I realized how much the toys affect all products. Like a show, if the toys don't sell, show's gone. If everything is just made for toys. And I'm just like, I mean, I get it, but I'm like, kind of makes me sad.
Well, yes, it is a money make. That's what Lucas, that's where Lucas made his fortune by getting the merchandising rights to Star Wars. So
not at first.
Well, not, yeah.
Listen to the toys that made us. He was very upset.
Well, he eventually became very.
Oh yeah, he had all the rights later, but not until the prequel movie.
Right.
Because he fucked up because nobody wanted to work with him because he waited too long because he was worried someone would steal his ideas. So by the time he finally did it, no company wanted to work with him because it was too late and movies never sold well. So he had to take whatever deal he could get, and he got screwed. He got I think it was 5 cents of every dollar they made. He got something like that. The next deal wasn't so friendly.
He altered the deal.
Oh God, yes. They talk about it in there, but they were like, it was terrible. It was the worst deal we ever signed. We had no choice. I thought it was funny.
Well, I remember I definitely had some toys. I had the what was it? Prince Shizor's
the ship
is I forget what it was called. It was like a spiky kind of fighter ship. Oh, the Virago, I think it was. Yeah, I had that ship. That was a big toy. And I think I remember going to the toy store and picking that one out. And maybe you had the Dash Rendar's Outrider and some.
I didn't have that. Yeah. I had the Swoop Bike, which I just sent a picture in chat. I did have that. Yeah. I remember that figure, and I remember that. I never knew until about 10 seconds ago that was Shadows of the Empire toy. I had no recollection of that. Yeah,
it's very rare for them to make action figures based on a book, but it happened.
It was a time. I mean, like you said, this was a big movie release without a movie.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting about it. Like, I mean, in the toys that they made, some of the stuff isn't in the games. Some of it's in the comic books. Some of it's in the book only. Like, there's certain things that aren't in. Like, there's one of the figures I'm looking at is Luke's figure, Luke Skywalker in a red guard suit when he uses to infiltrate in one of the later issues. That wasn't in the game. That isn't in the comic. I'm assuming it's in the book.
I think so.
But it's just interesting how big Shadows of the Empire was.
I'm pretty sure it was a bestseller book, on the New York Times bestseller list, probably above John Grisham's book. They were like, oh, Shadows of the Empire. And there might have even been, there were definitely commercials for the video game.
Mm-hmm. So video game was a big deal.
Yeah, if you weren't a Star Wars fan, you would have heard something about it at some point. If you went to a toy store, which everybody did in the 90s, you definitely saw a poster for it or something.
It's just cool to me to look back at all this. And there's no Boba Fett figure from that line.
Interesting. Why would they not do that one?
I'm surprised. I mean, they did Leia, they did Chewie, Luke, Scizor, but no Fett. I guess because they figured they already had a Fett figure. These were doing exclusive figures.
They could have made another one specific to Shadows of the Empire. And
they would now.
They would just do one with different outfits, with a blue armor. Or
I mean, there's people out there that will buy it.
Yes.
I'm not one of them, but I don't. Well, I collect Funko Pops, but yes. So.
Do you have the Boba Fett Funko Pop?
I do actually. Only because depending on when you hear this, will probably be December. Hopefully, I will have it signed by 2 different actors by the time that people hear this. So. That's the reason I bought it. I didn't have one before, but I'm like, Oh, and I want to talk about the second issue. The second issue opens up with another part that wasn't in the game, or not completely, but you have Vader training with some robot holding a green lightsaber, which made me laugh. And you have some random character that apparently works for Vader that he's sending to go infiltrate the Hutt gang and find out what's going on or something.
Yeah, Jix.
Yeah,
I don't think is in the book, if I remember.
Okay. He felt like very much of just a character just for this to expand on this.
Yeah, they definitely wanted some character who you could see, it's a very bad guy focused book. There's a lot of stuff with bad guys, so you kind of wanted some guy who would be like the audience who could say what's going on, and he'd still be among the villains or whatever.
He works for that, and this is also when you have Dash Rendar is first introduced in the second issue.
Yeah,
because nobody cares about Dash Rendar, but I thought that was funny. He's like, oh, he's gonna help us find Solo, and there's not a whole lot about him. He's like, oh, man, I was like, yeah, I know him. We can trust him.
it's interesting. This leaves out a lot. And you mentioned this earlier. This leaves out two important backstories, I believe. The first backstory is the Prince Caesar backstory, which was that Darth Vader had personally had like a biological weapons plant on Prince Caesar's homeworld, and there was a leak. And in order to prevent the disease from spreading, the Empire just kind of blew up this entire city, and so Prince Caesar's entire family died. And so Vader killed Prince Caesar's entire family and a couple 100,000 other people.
Yeah, that sounds like Vader and the Emperor.
And it's not mentioned at all in the book, I don't think, unless I missed it. But that kind of explains the personal beef that Prince Caesar and Vader had.
No, you didn't miss it. It's not in the comic.
Right. And the other thing is it leaves out Dash Rendar's backstory, which is that Dash Rendar came from a rich family on Coruscant. And then Dash Rendar's brother, and Dash Rendar was in the military academy with Han Solo.
That's cool.
They knew each other. But Dash Rendar's brother was piloting a ship on Coruscant. And he accidentally just piloted into the Imperial Museum and it destroyed lots of the Emperor's favorite artifacts. And so the Emperor banished his family from Coruscant and kind of kicked Dash Rendar out of the military academy. And so he became a mercenary.
Okay.
So that's the backstory the book presents. Now, it makes the universe really small because it's like, oh, Dash Rendar was very important to all these people. But it does explain a little bit. It's not mentioned at all in the comic where he came from, why he's a mercenary or whatever. He's just kind of like a roguish figure like Han Solo.
Yeah, he's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, again, after reading this and then playing, think of the game, I mean, really, he's a character for the game.
Right.
Like in this comic, it isn't very long in this issue. You see Dash Rendar, and then within 2 pages, no, you see him for 1 page.
Yeah.
And then you're on to Boba Fett in a bar with Bosk and Zuckuss and how they're trying to get Boba Fett to give them the bounty or a deal, share his money with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is really cool because you get to see Boba Fett just start killing people.
And this is what we wanted out of the Boba Fett series. We wanted Boba Fett, just killing people. I think the term is murk these days. He's murking people left and right.
We wanted him to be the villain he is, not being like, well, I'm going to take over this land and I'm going to take your taxes.
Right. Exactly. We don't want him to be a kindly mob boss. We want him to be, he's on the run. He's shooting people. He's always one step ahead. In this book, he always knows, he was always back to the corner, but he always has an escape plan. He always knows how to get out of a situation. And, it's a good bit in this bar. There's a good panel of him shooting. He says, think again, and he goes, bazat, his gun. And it's a great panel. And he just kills some guy who was sneaking up on him from a catwalk or something. And it's great. It's what we wanted from Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's nice to see him being a badass. And I also like how this comic jumps around a lot. Like you have the stuff going on with Fett. You have, for some reason, I'm not even sure what was going on with the Alliance, but they're fighting TIE fighters and flying around. I'm like, okay, I didn't care. All I want to do is just read more about Fett. Yeah,
so they learned Boba Fett is on the planet Gaul, which in the video game was a big cannon. It's a big canyon level.
Oh yeah, Gaul Spaceport. That's where you fight Boba Fett, right?
Right. And in the book and the comic book, it's very short. They fly there, they see Boba Fett taking off, and that's it. He gets away.
It's not short in the video game.
There's no cannons. Yeah, it's the longest level. There's no jetpack that you fly through the canyons. There's no ATST that you fight. There's simply three pages and you're off the planet.
It's so short.
Right.
I mean, and all he does, you just see him getting in a ship, fighting more bounty hunters, and then away he goes.
Exactly. It's definitely, best of both worlds. Get more Boba Fett, but you don't get some cool action level. But yeah, the Alliance is there to take Boba Fett, but Boba Fett's one step ahead of the Alliance.
I like that, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes sense that they're following Fett because they're trying to find Solo.
Exactly.
So their goal is to follow Fett to see where he's taking Solo. Because this is before they find out, I think he's going to Jabba's palace.
Yeah, they know.
Or maybe they know, but they're trying to intercept him.
Yeah, they know he needs to go there, but his ship got damaged, so he went away to get repaired, and so they're trying to follow him around. It's a little bit forced, but
it works.
It works, yeah.
And then this is when you get introduced again to that other random guy that I forgot his name, Vader's henchman guy.
Oh, Jix, yeah.
Yeah, and he's with Swoop Bike, and these are some of the ugliest characters that I've seen in this comic, or any comic recently. And this is where you see him kind of join the Swoop Riders because he beats the shit. He cheats the guy in a race to win and blows up his Swoop Bike. So you're one of us. You can join.
So yeah, you could. He meets the Swoop gang leader, who's if you're generous, you can call him Big Giz, or you can call him Big Jizz, which also
would not work in today's. Yeah,
it's very strange that they gave him that name. But so let's call him Big Giz. It would be hard to say that, but Big Giz is like, I like you. You're a cheater and a thief, Jix. I like you. So you can join the Swoop Gang. And so Jix and Jizz join forces.
It's just weird,
right? To join the Swoop Gang, and it's some good color, some good local color in this. So they fight. They fight each other, but he joins the gang, and they go meet Jabba. So they go fly to Jabba's palace, and Jabba's there doing his Jabba stuff. Salacious Crumb is there.
Well, I like the way that it shows up. Like they interrupt Jabba trying to get some more food.
Right.
Which I just thought was funny, and like Jabba wants nothing to do with this guy. He's like, I don't know you, I don't trust you.
Right.
I like that.
That's good. It's typical Jabba.
Yeah, and you just see him eating whatever the hell he's eating. He has something that looks like a fly swatter for some reason. It's just weird, but it's Jabba, so I don't question it.
In the book, Jabba comes to Prince Shizor. This is not in the book. It's like Prince Shizor's like, I want to speak to Jabba, and Jabba comes to him, and they talk. So it's a little bit different, but Jabba is in the novel itself.
Okay. He's not in the game, I know that.
No, he's not.
And this is also the first book of the series that Luke is only. There's no Boba Fett in the cover. Luke's on the cover, swashing or hitting a swoop bike with his lightsaber, yes. Which is kind of from the game, not exactly, because you have to kill them all before he gets there. But it's kind of cool that they did try to incorporate something from the game, or the game trying to incorporate something from the novel and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. It's
because you actually get to in the comic, the swoop bikes actually make it to Luke. Dash Rendar is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And oh no, wait, never. I lied. Dash Rendar shows up after a few issues when Luke is almost getting killed and got on his own swoop bike and ran away. And then it was the Jizz guy that ends up, or Viz, whatever the hell, Vader's guy who ends up covering, pretty much shooting someone else and then helping Luke not get murdered.
Right, because his orders are to, Luke is not to be harmed or whatever.
Yeah,
because Darth Vader doesn't want it.
And this is when you see him kill one of the swoop bike gang too, because he's not really working for them, because they're working for Jabba, who's trying to kill Luke because Scizor wants him killed.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that you have Scizor and Vader both have different objectives, and they're like Scizor is trying to play the Emperor against Vader, where Vader's trying to do the same thing just to get rid of they're trying to get rid of the opposition of each other. And
they cut out there's a good bit in the book, and there wasn't enough time to put in here, I guess, where Vader has a guy try to kill Prince Shizor. It doesn't work. Like on Coruscant, Prince Shizor is walking through his palace, some guy tries to kill Shizor, and he's easily dispatched. And the Emperor and Vader are talking, and the Emperor's like, "Oh, Vader, do you hear somebody try to kill Prince Shizor?" And Vader's like, "Oh, really?" And the Emperor says, "It's funny how this assassin got through all this high-level security we have here." And Vader's like, "I'll have to look into it." It's kind of a good bit, but they didn't put that in this book. But there's definitely a power struggle.
Oh yeah, you get to see that. Yeah. You also have another cool little scene that I like, where you have Scizor is the one that gives the plans to the Bolton spies. The many Bolton spies that died to get those plans.
Yes. That's coming up. Oh yeah, well he tells Guri, yeah.
I like that. I was always get a kick out of that. And then you have Forlom, who was shot in the previous issue in Slave 1. You see him repairing himself, which then leads to Forlom telling the other bounty hunters where Boba Fett is, and then Boba Fett goes in and murders him for good this time. Right,
and drops him out an airlock or something.
You think he would have been smart enough to do that and get rid of the robot, but I guess not.
Yeah, it's kind of he just kind of leaves his corpse, or he leaves the wreckage of Forlom in the basement of his ship, and he does the hold. He doesn't do anything with it, but he should have just detonated it.
You think so? And this is where his ship gets shot up again, this time by Bosk, and he then ends the issue into issue 4. But it was cool to see Bosk. I always liked Bosk. I always like it just made me happy to see these bounty hunters again and actually do something besides just look menacing in one scene of a movie.
Right. We got to see them doing their bounties, which they were designed to do.
And then the cover of issue 4, this I want to talk about. It has Leia in her outfit from Return of the Jedi, the bounty hunter one, and Chewbacca dressed up as a bounty hunter is on the cover.
It's a good cover.
It is. Also, was that a character were either of these ones characters before this, or this was their first introduction? Well, I mean, Leia, I know, in Return of the Jedi, but
I don't remember with Chewie.
Okay.
I don't remember. I think he was a real
character.
He may have been
somewhere.
He wasn't character established, but he was like,
Okay.
I think he was a person that they like you're going to impersonate this Wookiee bounty hunter. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what they say in the comic. I was just wondering if it was someone they already had designed before. Okay. I mean, one thing I like is that you see the same costume. Like, they did a good job of making it be like, okay, she got the costume so she could infiltrate Zizor's place. I know I keep saying it wrong. I don't care. And I like that because that ties into why she's wearing it then come, Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Also, every time I see that mask, I laugh because Star Trek had the same mask in Deep Space Nine, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the Breen had the same outfit, which is funny. I don't know if anyone's ever commented on it. I mean, people have commented on it, but I don't know if everyone said, "Oh yeah, that was an homage." But they look, almost identical.
It's right on. It's 100% an homage to Star Wars.
It's too coincidental not to be.
Yeah, I mean, someone was probably like, "Can we legally do this?" And they're like, "Well, they're like, yes, we can. All right, here we go. Make a whole race. They're going to show up in this last few episodes of this great show. They're going to wear that mask."
Exactly. Yeah.
I like the Breen, even though they're not good. But I like the Breen.
Yeah. Strangely, on a sidebar, it's strangely unused in any new Star Trek properties, which is weird because they're kind of mysterious, formidable, but they have not been. What I've seen have not been mentioned again, which is unfortunate. Maybe someday.
That's too bad. I mean, hey, it's kind of like this thing. This isn't mentioned ever again. Either Shadows Return to Jedi, and they just kind of go away from the bit with her. But there were a lot of cool Leia moments in this issue too, which was nice.
Yeah, let's see. I just want to. We might be getting ahead of ourselves. I just kind of want.
Well, no, there's other stuff happens in the issue. This is also where Boba Fett gets boarded, and you have this weird bat guy. I don't know who he is. He doesn't. I mean, he gets killed in the first couple pages.
Yeah, he's they call him Furlog,
But it's it's the only original character that wasn't in the movie that they just throw in this bounty hunter group.
And Boba Fett says that. He says, I don't recognize your face. You're new here. What's your name? He's like, never mind. And he kind of is the classic like, oh, Boba Fett, we heard you were tough, but you don't seem so tough to me. Seems like you're pretty easy to take down. And then Boba Fett kills him.
Just going down.
Right.
And he opens the door of the airlock and just shoots him out in the space.
Right. That's a good bit. I really like that scene.
It is. I mean, it's Boba Fett being a badass in this. And, you see him shooting other random bounty hunters that are just happen to be on the ship. He shoots Zuckuss.
Yeah. He shoots. It's a great scene. He shoots them all. And they have they boarded it with like a little craft or whatever.
Yeah.
And he captures Zuckuss and makes him kind of say, oh, Boba Fett, I admire the guy. I respect him. And he's at gunpoint with Boba Fett. And Boss was like, what are you talking about?
Here's the line. That seems a bit harsh, Boss. After all, Fett's not that bad.
Yeah.
Hate him, dear me. No, in fact, I admire and respect him, sort of.
Right.
Because he got a gun pointed to him.
It's a good bit. And
it's good stuff.
Yeah, and Boba Fett sends the shuttle back, which supposedly has, Han Solo and Carbonite on him, but it just has the pile of dead bodies on it and a bomb. And it just blows up Bosk. Now Bosk lives, however, he's severely damaged. So
yeah, he messes up the ship and then he flies off in Slave One, but he keeps Zuckuss captive for some reason.
Right, but they tease what's going to happen to him later on. But yes,
and this is then you get a small couple page of I don't know why I cannot remember that guy's name.
Jix.
Vader's what is it?
Jix.
Jix is talking with Jabba, discussing as always, and then you have a good page of ships firing at each other and Y-wing getting blown up for some reason.
Yeah, these are the many Bothans who died.
Oh, okay. Because they're attacking the freighter that has the plane. Okay.
Yeah, the Bothans were flying the Y-wings for reasons I don't remember, but
because I don't even remember what Bothans look like because they're not in the movies.
No, they kind of look like Cat or I feel like
Dark Empire. They were in the Dark Empire or Heir of the Empire. They're in that comic. I remember correctly.
Yeah, I guess they're kind of like a K9 Cat type people.
Yeah, they're in this comic too for one, and then they get murdered again because Luke is. Well, first you have Sizor talking to Palpatine about how the whole plan is working out, and he's going to crush the rebellion. Blah blah blah.
And this was in the video game. You were Dash Runner on board the freighter where you had to get the plans, but they didn't show that.
What about Kyle Katarn? Where's he?
Kyle Katarn is off with the Dark Troopers and learning about the Jedi, I guess.
Well, he got the first Death Star plans back then.
He got the first Death Star plans, yes. all these side characters all these mercenary characters actually get the plans. the heroes that just take them.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. Just pay the guy. Like, hey, we don't want to risk our own men, so we'll just pay you if you don't get back, we don't got to pay you. It's great. If you fail the job, it's free. So, I mean, that's one way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And then you have Luke fighting somebody. I don't know who the hell these people are, like some weird lizard-looking thing.
They're something cultistians or something. Cultists.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Luke gets captured.
Luke is captured, yeah.
Which I feel like happens a lot in these comics.
I mean, it happens a lot in the movies. Every movie, Luke is captured by somebody. It's a hero thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I do like Luke's look in this because they did change it up a little bit where he has an orange vest on, which I thought was cool to give him something different to make him stand out in this iteration of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something little, but it was still cool. And then you also have when Leia and Luke are Leia and Chewbacca are getting ready to go on the ship to go meet Prince Izor in Coruscant. They have disguises, and Chewbacca looks all weird, and she has. And then this is the first time where when they get there, they end up meeting with Prince Izor, and he starts to do his thing where he's kind of like taking over, or is it supposed to be with pheromones that are kind of getting to Leia?
Yeah,
to his command.
Again, something from the book that they don't. In the book, it goes very much into how horny he is. He talks about he has many mistresses, he sleeps with tons of women and he can never be satisfied. He has pheromones. His species have like overpowering pheromones that make him irresistible. So even if you don't physically like him, you'll like him regardless. You'll get attracted to him. I assume if you're a woman.
I liked it. I thought it was a cool way to do it. And like having her thought bubbles going, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I acting like this? Like, why am I listening to him? Like,
it is. I mean, it is cool. Like, it's an alien characteristic that I don't know if Disney would do anything like this.
Oh God, no.
They would not have a character who wants to sleep with Princess Leia and whose whole goal is basically to sleep with Princess Leia. It's too adult for Disney.
Yeah, and then you have where Luke is captured. You have a small scene where he breaks out of prison, but you actually get to see him use, like, from one of the early times, the Jedi mind trick, where he's like, you want to open the door.
Right.
You want to come in here.
There's a brief moment where he thinks, like, oh, it's working. And the guard's like, what? He's like, oh, I'm kind of concentrate, which is good. It's a good Jedi stuff. And then, he gets his lightsaber and then he violently skewers some guard who's like moving out shoot. And he just turns around and slices his face open, which is, and there's blood. It's like, it's like, okay, Luke is killing people. This is a new side. This is like something that you don't usually see where he just.
No, he massacres, he kills like everybody on the ship until Lando shows up and Lando kills more. But normally you don't see Luke actually cut people up in the movies, unfortunately.
No, I don't think they would make it as violent either. And they're aliens, so it is a little bit acceptable. Like, they're not human beings. But he does just like these people, he's not out for revenge. They're just like trying to kill him, so he's just like murdering them all. they're just a pile of bodies in his wake. And it's like, okay, well, that's what a Jedi does.
Remember, Jedis are peacekeepers only. Oh wait, sorry, that didn't come out yet.
Yes, that wasn't established yet.
I'm okay with that though. I liked it better when they weren't peacekeepers.
Yeah.
Or generals.
General Kenobi.
Okay. Yeah, but not like the way we find out when those movies progress.
Yeah, it's a different time.
And then Lando breaks him out of prison, or breaks him out of the ship where he was held.
Yeah, like Lando breaks him out. They get on the Falcon. R2 and 3PO are there briefly, but they don't do much with them.
And this is then you have scenes of Leia has changed costumes
to something more revealing. And
yeah, but I mean, I think it's cool to see her in a different costume. At least this one is much more dignified than the slave Leia. I mean, it makes sense. It's
kind of more like, like a regal gown or something.
Yeah, it's a blue dress she's wearing. I think it's really cool. I mean, it's not, and for some reason, Scizor turns red in these parts for some reason.
I think that's something with his species. If I read more of the book, I would remember. But it definitely mentions what.
Okay, so it wasn't
like a biological thing that when he's about to make love or something, he turns red. I don't know.
Okay.
Again, I haven't gotten that far in the book, but
you're fine. That wasn't required for this.
I know. I did some extra credit I wanted to have the answers. I don't have all the answers. I want to have some answers.
Now I'm curious if there's a Leia toy of her in the blue outfit. I feel like I've seen it somewhere in my life.
You'll have to do some research.
I'm doing it right now as I'm stalling. But Okay, there is a... Okay, I found a figure, but it's loose, so I don't know if it's a custom...
Oh, boy.
Or it's an actual figure. I want to see it in a box, so I know it's real, not somebody just... Which apparently people do a lot. Okay, there is a figure of it in a... Okay, I remember this, because I worked at Target, and I remember seeing this on the shelf. There was a Star Wars Shadow of the Empire Star Wars comic packs that came out back in, like, the frickin'... God, it would have been the year 2008, 2009, around that time. At least that's when I worked there. And they had a couple of them for Shadow of the Empire, but this one had Leia in the blue outfit and Prince Caesar in a 2-pack with a comic.
Okay.
They did a bunch of these little comic packs to promote stuff. And you get some exclusive figures, I think. And I remember looking at them because I used to work in electronics. I'd walk over the toy aisle all the time looking for toys.
Oh.
But I didn't collect figures. But they also did some for your one that we haven't read yet, but we talked about, that Crimson thing.
It was the Empire, yes.
Yeah, there's some for that too, I think. So it is stuff that you wouldn't have got otherwise. That was only comics.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's the only figure it looks like of her in the blue dress.
Interesting. I'll have to look it up myself. And see what it looks like.
I don't know. I just thought there's also a Mara Jade figure too for Heir to the Empire.
Well, that I should be expecting.
I kind of want that now.
See how expensive it is.
I'm looking as we speak. I'm sure not cheap. Oh, right. And then this issue, what else happens? So this is where Chewbacca kind of clues her in that she's, losing it and not acting how she should be acting.
Right. Yeah. She does call him an overgrown stuffed toy, which is strange. But
what I didn't understand is shortly after that, he talks to her and then she goes back in with Scizor, and this time the pheromones aren't working. If I remember correctly, in the book, it actually elaborates what she did to make it stop working.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember what.
Okay, but yeah, it's not in the comic.
It's something to do with the tea, I think. I think it's a counteractive thing, but she pours herself some tea.
Yeah, you see her drinking tea, and you see her stalling him, and him getting all pissed off at her, and Chewbacca's beating the shit out of guards, and you think that would have alerted him somehow, and she's like, "Oh, the dress is stuck. I can't get it off." And
and he tells her, "Take them off. It would please me, don't you? You want to please me, don't you?" It's like, oh, this guy is definitely going to be canceled. Caesar would definitely be canceled.
He wouldn't be like this in a Disney film.
No.
I mean, this is a little rapey here. And then, but I love what she does because she's no longer being controlled by him, even though there's a comment where she can feel it still hitting her. And so her solution is kick him in the nuts.
I mean, we know, all races have their genitals in the same area.
Star Trek would disagree with you. Or no, Men in Black would disagree with you for sure. I think Star Trek might have too.
Star Trek made a joke too as well. Yeah.
Okay. I know Men in Black makes the joke where it's like, his chin is his balls, and they punch him in the chin or something.
Yep. It's an old joke, but it checks out. Anyway, and Caesar's like, and they escape. And Caesar just like relaxing with the drink. They're like, they escaped. Ugh. He's very much.
But it's also what he wanted, because he wanted Luke to come right to him so he can just kill Luke.
Right, yeah. He did. I mean, he definitely wanted a little bit of fun beforehand, but
that didn't work out for him.
He didn't get that plan. And
you have a small scene of Vader choking some lizard guy that failed to catch Luke, because I'm sure that's what he was force choking him. And then you have Fett. It shows as Zuckuss is in a cell on Fett's ship, and he's keeping him as a hostage. And I'm like, they are bounty hunters. I doubt they really care about each other, because if you kill the other guy, that means less. You don't have to share anymore. So I didn't really understand the logic of that concept, but I'm like, okay.
Well, yeah.
It does not check out. So, and then you have that Viz guy again, and then you see him kill one of Jabba's men, and he makes a illegal transmission to Vader, telling Vader that it was Scizor who put the hit out on Luke, and was essentially going behind his back and betraying the Emperor.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, he figures that out.
You have some small scene of the Falcon hiding on a ship or something, or hiding behind ships so they don't notice them or something, with a bunch of Imperial ships around.
Yeah, they're in the sensor shadow. They've entered Coruscant.
That's what they were doing. Okay, they're going to Coruscant. Yeah, because Black Sun is in Coruscant, and that's where.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't really explain it. This is a side. They don't explain much in the comic, but in the book, like, Black Sun is like a mafia. It's like, mafia type organization. Like, that is just kind of a bunch of races have banded together to make like anything illegal, like arms deals and drug deals and stuff.
So did they touch on that a lot in the extended universe? I know, like, now in current Disney canon, you have the Pike Syndicate, you have other syndicates that were added, and like Rebels, they talk about it more, Clone Wars with Darth Maul, and has involvement with it later on.
Yeah, for a while, Black Sun was the crime syndicate. Because after this book, a lot of other books used it as like, oh, he's an agent of Black Sun and all this stuff.
Okay.
So it was like they were like they're like the bad guys that weren't the Empire, basically. Like the non-Empire black guys and
that's cool.
Bad guys. But yeah, I don't remember exactly what the storylines would happen with them. But
okay, I was just curious if you.
Yeah, they're definitely in more stuff, and they're probably in the video games and stuff. Oh, another thing that came from the book was Terras Kazi, which was if you remember, there was a game called Masters of Terras Kazi, but it was Prince Shuzo was an expert in the art of Terras Kazi, and so I believe that came from the book as well.
Okay, that's one of like the worst Star Wars games ever made. I never really played it. I want to it's a fighting game. PS1,
Right.
64. I just want to cover it just because and see how bad it really is.
You should. I've never played it, but
I played it once or twice in my life. I know I booted it up at some point, like a Funkoland or something had it, and the 64. I know I played it before. I know that, but never for long or cared. But it exists. Okay. And then the last issue starts off, which this cracked me up. They're in the sewers, walking around with some random guy that's leading them, who I don't know who the hell that's supposed to be. He's not really mentioned again. I
think he's just like a guy who they bribed.
Okay.
And that's he's like a guy who they bribed and they got him in.
Okay. Yeah, he's just there, and then you have, I like how they end up running into the sewer monsters. God, what the hell are they called? Dianogas.
Oh,
and
yes.
Luke's like, yeah, I've met them. I ran into one before.
Yeah, well, that's funny. In the game, it was, a big level where just Dash Rendar goes around. You fight several Dianogas, and that was a scary, when you're 8 years old, it's kind of scary.
It wasn't, yeah, I mean, it especially N64, those were good graphics for us at the time, so.
At the time, it was like it was popping out of the screen. It was like, oh no, this beast is here. Anyway.
I just that it made me happy to see they had that, because I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, he mentions the one from the trash compactor. Yeah,
it made me happy.
Anyway, that's good.
And then you have them and Leia, and he's able to communicate to Leia, letting her know that he's there. So she leaves the room or cell, whatever the hell. I don't even know what the hell she's in. She leaves to go wherever the hell she's going. And then you have Scizor talking about everything going according to plan. Lando is with them wearing something that looks like a stormtrooper outfit for some reason, but it's not. I don't know. And Dash Rendar shows up again for the first time.
Yeah.
Like he's just randomly back with the group, even though we haven't seen him much at all during this comic. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. Like, you have a small couple stuff where like Scizor shoots at them, but they really don't even fight them. They just escape.
Yeah, I had to read the book part again. I always was weirded out by the part where Lando just throws a thermal detonator down the shaft and it kind of blows up the entire palace.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was a little extreme. Like,
I don't
is it
know
a normal thing in this continuality to when you make a building, you make it with one terrible flaw?
It seemed like just going to the basement. I don't think in the book like it was going to like a power core or something. I think it was just it exploded at the base level, so the whole thing collapsed. But it always was strange how powerful a thermal detonator worked. Like a thermal detonator, I figured might be just a big grenade.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
That's what it is in the video games when you throw it.
Right. It doesn't blow up a whole building.
No, it's not that powerful of an item. Yeah,
it's very weird. So that kind of always bothered me. Maybe the book explains it more, but I thought also weird in the book, they don't say it here, is that Scizor refers to Lando as the Dark Man. He says there's like a Wookiee, there's Luke Skywalker, a Wookiee, and a Dark Man, and I just thought it was
that's weird. I mean, I'm guessing they didn't know how they wanted to say it.
I don't think it's
it comes off as some trying to avoid being racist and sounding almost racist at the same time.
Yeah, it just was a weird thing to say. But they don't mention it in the comic at all. So
could have just said it another human.
Yeah, it was strange.
Okay.
But yeah, so they blow up.
I was also surprised it was only one issue that they're in the castle. They're out of the castle pretty quickly from the time that Luke shows up, and then you just have them in space fighting. Which I always found it weird that the last level of Shadow of the Empire was space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It always kind of like to me was just weird that it wasn't but I guess it's Star Wars and so it makes sense that aspect. But
I'm sure they wanted a space level. There was an asteroid field level, so that was in space.
And then you have like the Scizor ships are going after them in this comic.
Right.
Scizor's in some special ship too.
If you remember the game, the Shizor's Palace was like the hardest level because you fight the final boss is like a big droid that you need every weapon you have at your disposal to destroy. But yeah, in the book they just kind of get in, they use one grenade to blow up the whole building and just get out. It's not like in the game at all.
That's because Dash Render's off running around doing all the work while they were just doing that. Yeah,
so the grenade didn't do anything. That's what it was. The grenade just exploded harmlessly, but Dash Render blew it up with like his charges, and they just thought it was the detonator.
Okay, I buy that. I'll go with that.
There you go.
Because wasn't that when the missions too was setting charges or something?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. And then you have TIE fighters showing up, and they're shooting the Black Sun fighters too, and the rebels are fighting them. And then just where you have the Skyhook is in it, which I forget, which kind of looks like Cloud City but in space.
Yeah, it's kind of like Shizor's personal space station. I think the Emperor had one, but the point of a Skyhook was that it was connected to the surface through like a space elevator. So like it had an elevator that went directly down to the planet.
Okay.
But they don't really. I think it's just a floating space station in the comic. But in the book, it was like connected to Coruscant.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was like it's kind of a weird sci-fi design that they never really have gone again, where something is tethered to the planet. But Prince Shizor's demise, it comes up pretty quickly. That they're in space, and a couple pages later, Vader shows up with the Executor, and he's talking to Shizor, and he's like, "Surrender." Darth Vader says, "Surrender in 2 minutes," and Shizor's like, "I won't." Oh, what? And he's like, "Oh, what? You'll destroy me? The Emperor's not going to like that." Vader says, "Fuck you," basically.
I like that. I like that Vader is the one that just blows up. They shoot it with the Executioner and just blow up the Skyhook and kill Scizor, and that's how the Rebels escape, is through the ruins of that.
It is a unique way to go in that, most villains have a much more personal death in Star Wars, whereas this guy's just kind of obliterated. He's such a big villain, and just Vader's like, okay, blow up his ship, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing more to him.
I mean, part of it was you had to get rid of this character also. You had to put him away back in the box because, he doesn't exist in the movies, which take place shortly after this, that he has to disappear somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I expected him to die. It's just weird that nowadays, I feel like you'd have a character actually kill him. You'd need a more personal death.
Yeah, you would have Vader, like, personally just stab him with a lightsaber or something.
Right. That's just the way things are going, whereas this is a far more impersonal death. And it's just outside of the norm of Star Wars to have such an impersonal way to go.
I highly agree.
But I'm not criticizing it. It's just very strange.
It's very much of the time, I think, too. And then the book doesn't end, even though you think that would be the end.
Right.
Of, Luke and them escaping and saying, okay, we gotta go get Han. Then it goes back to Boba Fett again, and you have Boba Fett finally arriving, which, okay, I thought this was hilarious. He arrives to bring Han to Jabba, and Jabba's like, okay, if anybody gets to him first, I'll pay you less money than I'm going to pay him, essentially, if you kill him. And I like the idea that Boba Fett takes Zuckuss, puts him in another set of Mandalorian armor for some reason. How he has 2 sets, I don't know, because that doesn't make any sense. And then has him on a swoop bike that he's handcuffed to, riding along with Forlom where the carbonite is, just so he can deliver it. Then Jabba tells him he doesn't want to pay him, and then he pays him.
First of all, Jabba's definitely lowballing with these 10,000. I mean, this got to be worth much more than 10,000 credits or whatever.
Yeah,
they don't mention it. Why is it they don't say how much? But like, you got to figure through all this trouble, he's got to be at least 50,000 credits, because 10,000 is how much.
Doesn't seem like very much.
Ship for. No, $10,000 in America. Well, that's nothing.
It depends on what year we're.
100. Yeah, I suppose.
2022 is nothing. 1970. Woo. 1960.
In 1977, yeah. Let's say that. But, Han Solo, adjusted for inflation, you'd hope Han Solo would be worth at least $100,000 or something,
Yes.
And that's what makes it make it worth it. Because you got to put your fuel costs, your lodging costs, your taxes, all that sort of stuff.
It's just funny that that's the last bit of this comic.
Right.
Or not the last bit, but like a big part of this is Boba Fett, and they're like, that's why he's the best.
It's good. It shows that it's kind of Boba Fett's story. That's why it ends with that way. I mean, it ends with Darth Vader, but really it should end with just Boba Fett. I really like the way it has Vader in this too. The very end of this, you have Vader make some good comments, which is true. Luke Skywalker has evaded me again, but his capture can only be a matter of time.
power is growing rapidly. He will be the greatest of us all, and I will help him guide him to the dark side. None will be able to stand against us. Together we will rule the galaxy as father and son. And I like seeing that is, pointed out in this more, that's what he was really up to. He wasn't trying to get Luke I think it's mentioned in the movies too, maybe, but maybe I'm wrong, that he wasn't trying to get Luke for the Emperor. He's getting Luke for himself because he wanted freedom.
Well, yeah, he wanted to destroy the Emperor in the end, but he wanted Luke and him to rule.
Yeah, and I don't think the movies ever touch on that.
Well, other than he says, you can destroy the Emperor. He has foreseen this in Empire when he's on the Cloud City.
Oh, okay, never mind.
He's like, together we can rule the galaxy. It's like, forget the Emperor, basically. Let's you and I do this together.
That sounds like blasphemy.
Well, by the third movie, he's kind of resigned. It seems like he's resigned himself to be this. He's like, I'm not going to worry about that anymore.
We're done. I'm done working for him.
Right.
He got my wife killed. He got me to betray my religion and kill everyone I loved. Fuck him, I guess.
All it took was him to try to electrocute his son. Not the billions of people he's killed. It's just.
No, but hey, remember, he can help him save his wife somehow, even though he's the reason his wife died.
You just got to wonder why that never came up like a couple of years later. Like, hey, when's Padme going to come back? And probably the Emperor's just like, ugh, you brought up that woman again. Look, why don't you go? Just go investigate this construction project I've got going on. I've got you on a 3:30 flight to Bespin or something. You go over there for a couple of weeks. I got things to do.
I don't know. I was always just find that so funny. How it's like he just that's why he turned, and
right.
I hate those movies. Well,
here's one thing that I should mention, that they, like the book, this comic leaves the fate of Dash Rendar. It's very silly, where Dash Rendar is heading toward like some debris, and there's like a flash, and they're like, well, I guess Dash Rendar got killed. Too bad.
That's really what it is, that they push him away.
Yeah, it's very brief. You might miss it. It's like right after Prince Shizos gets destroyed.
I did miss it.
Yeah, it's very hard because it's not spelled out either. It's just like, look out, Dash, and they cover their eyes because there's a flash. And Luke says, poor guy, he almost made it too. And that's what happens in the book too. But in the video game, I think you stay through the end credits, you get to see Dash Rendar flying away through hyperspace saying, we sure fooled them. Now let's go make some more money somewhere else.
He never shows up again, does he?
I believe, if I remember correctly, he shows up in a later book. They did a New Jedi Order trilogy where the galaxy gets invaded by other aliens. And I believe Dash Rendar shows up in one of those books. This is like 20 years later or whatever.
Okay. Did they come to the Gamma Quadrant?
It is basically the Dominion who comes to the Star Wars galaxy, yes.
Okay.
A very strange time in Star Wars land, but yes. I think Dash Rendar does show up again canonically in the old canon.
Okay. That's cool. Because he doesn't really do anything, but still, he's such a, he was such a big character at one time. Well, I feel like in this he was, but they moved on from this.
Yeah, they certainly have.
Okay. Any last things to say about this comic? Or any more toy talk you wanted?
I'm just trying to think, to have any more Straws the Empire toys. I think I had some Micro Machines, and I think in the Micro Machines, the small kind of plastic toys, there was some Straws the Empire ones, but I'm not certain.
Okay. I mean, again, it was a big deal. It really was. So.
Oh, I had the landing craft. Like it looks like the Imperial shell. I had the landing craft, with the 3 wings that was first introduced in the video game. I had that one.
Okay.
I had the action fleet, they called it, which were the kind of like the vehicles that they released. Anyway, That's beside the point. That's all I have.
I don't think all I had was a swoop bike. I don't think I had a Dash Rendar figure or anything else.
No. I
can't remember. It's been so long. So I think I was
Mike.
Yes, I know. I'm gonna be 35 after you hear this. So yeah.
We're practically boomers for Star Wars.
We're getting there. All right, we should go to Shelf Stacker Box, and I'll go first. I'm gonna put this in the stack. Like, the comic was all right. I mean, it wasn't as thrilling as some of the other Star Wars comics we read for this show, but I'm glad I finally read it. It had been on my list to read for so damn long, so I'm glad I finally did it. And I had fun. I enjoyed it. Yeah. It was it's still a good comic, but I have no interest in rereading it again, so I'm just gonna put it in the stack. But I'm glad it's finally checked off my list, because this has been on our backlog to record for a long time. So. And what about you, Peter?
I agree with you. I'd keep it in the stack. It has some good moments. It has I think the best parts are the bounty hunter stuff. It has a lot of good action in those bits. For the non-bounty hunter stuff, I like the detail kind of in the novel more. I liked how it expands on that. There's a lot of better Prince Shizor moments in the novel, and it kind of explains things much more. So if you want a more cohesive story, read the book and keep the comic on hand if you want, some extra stuff. But I wouldn't read it thinking it was definitive Shadows of the Empire. If you're looking to hear the story, read the book.
Yeah, because that was my other issue with it. It missed so much stuff.
Yeah, it left out too much stuff that makes the book worth reading. And I know they can't fit it all in there, but it does, to its detriment, I think it doesn't have all the detail.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just part of that whole, idea of, like what you said, like to, how much can we market to see if we can market Star Wars again.
Right, yeah.
Because Phantom Menace, this comes out in 96, I think it was. Phantom Menace was, 99?
Yeah.
Or this is 97. So, they were...
It was, I think everyone kind of figures this was a test for the prequels. Like, they wanted to make the prequels, so they said, do people still like Star Wars? So let's release a book and a comic and a video game to see if there's interest there. And of course, they found lots of people wanted to read that stuff, wanted to play this game. So like, all right, well, there's going to be interest for a Star Wars movie.
And there definitely was.
Well, yeah, they weren't wrong.
But what people were really waiting for? They wanted to have a movie about taxes and trade disagreements.
Well, yes, they said, I remember all the stuff about Star Wars, but what if we had trade disputes? And what if there was a kind of Jamaican stereotype in there as well? And what if there was more stereotypes? Let's put those in there. Let's make the love interest between an 8-year-old and an 18-year-old. Theoretically. I know it's not their actual age.
It's so stupid. I always remember the cool posters though of Anakin walking in the shadow as Vader.
Oh, there'll never be another movie that's as hyped as that one. That's,
No.
You could get people to go to the theater to watch the trailer and then leave the theater because they don't want to actually watch the movie. It was a different time for sure. But that's for another episode.
Hopefully soon, Ashley, from the time you're hearing this, because I want to do that next. I want to do that in 2023, early 2023.
I'll be there for the prequels.
All right. Will you be there for the sequels?
Yes, I will do that. I can't promise I'll be there for every Star Wars property, but for the movies,
I know that. I'm getting you for what I can.
Right. I'll be there for you.
All right. And Peter, where can people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at @PeterBP. Also, if you look up The Fifth Civilization on Amazon, for instance, you will find my first novel and my other novels as well. Check it out if you like Star Wars or if you like science fiction in general. They're cool books, in my opinion.
All right. I'm still trying to find my copy somewhere in this house that I bought.
It'll be the next box you look at. It's going to be in that one.
It's in the garage, I'm sure, which I have not looked in. I remember when I got fired, I was like, I'm going to go through my garage. Yeah, I didn't get very far. I was only off of work for like a month and a half, so it wasn't, or not. I don't think it was even that long. It wasn't very long. I can't stay unemployed long. All right, if you want to hear more Star Wars content, God, this is getting longer and longer every time I do this. Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, Film 37. Star Wars: Obi-Wan Kenobi, TV 5. Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back, Film 32. Star Wars: The Last Command, Comic 37. Star Wars: A New Hope, Film 29. Star Wars: Dark Force Rising, Comic 36. Star Wars Book of Boba Fett, TV 4. Star Wars Heir to the Empire, Comic 34. Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 1, TV 2. Star Wars Dark Empire 2, Comic 30. Star Wars Dark Empire, Comic 27. Star Wars Force Unleashed, Episode 115. Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 2, TV 1. God, we did that wrong. Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Episode 87. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Part 1 and Part 2, Episode 69. Star Wars Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, Comic 6. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, Episode 48. Definitely go listen to that. Star Wars Holiday Special, Film 6. Star Wars Republic Commando, Episode 21. And Star Wars Dark Forces, Episode 13. That's all the Star Wars stuff we've done so far. And there's more coming. Lots more coming. Yeah. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can find our whole catalog on Podbean if you can't find what you're looking for on Spotify or iTunes. They only go back so far. Also want to give it a shout out to my awesome intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Hasser. You can follow her on TikTok. Want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker who did the MCU movies with me. He made his own podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. Definitely go check him out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Audio only, but we're on YouTube. And if you want to help out the show, we have a Patreon. For the littlest dollar, you can vote in our Patreon polls. We have one every month. And we have a Discord. If you want to talk with us, please join our Discord. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.